The government had started this thing called GLC Transformation Program. And he was in Proton, I was in MAS. You remember we had this GLC steering committee. The Prime Minister was there. They showed a list of the performance of all the companies. The three of us, we were in the deep shit club. Do you remember one time we were at the F1?
Somehow we were in the paddock area, right?
Yes,
because we were GLC, we got tickets. It was not planned. I think the Sri Idris went first to the rooftop, was looking out to the sky. And then I was on the other side of the balcony. So I think there was two deep shit CEOs on the rooftop of the Formula One, not looking at the cars. Looking at the sky was not like, what the
Welcome to the Game of Impossible podcast. My name is Leon and this is my dad, Idris Jala. We are a father and son podcast where we discuss all things transformation through the lens of business, leadership, sport and faith. And today we have Sri Syed Zainal here with us in the studio. Sri, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks Leon. Thanks Idris for inviting. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, you're a man of many stories. And I think as I have listened to your different stories, as I've looked at your career trajectory as well, one thing really stands out. And it's that for you, you have a tendency to make discomfort comfortable, to normalize discomfort. And so I want to start by asking you, where did this knack for being comfortable with discomfort come from?
I think when I look back, a lot of my, shaping of my character actually started at a very early age. Not many people know I'm born in Kelantan. My father was just a government servant. So at a very early part of my childhood, I was already shifting from one place to the other. At the age of 8, we had to go to Johor Bahru from Kelantan all the way down south. Because my dad was transferred to Johor Bahru as a government servant. So I was about 8 years old. So I was in Standard 3, Standard 4, and Standard 5. Just when I thought things were going to be comfortable, you can blend in, then said, look, another call, we now have to shift from Johor to Penang. So I went out to Penang, finished off my Standard 6, all the way out to Pond 5. So a very early beginning, when I look back, it kind of prepared me to, live come out on this comfort zone. Always having to adapt a new environment at a very young age. It's not easy at a young age, I can't really go back and call I got friends that I grew up from childhood until finished. Because there's none. So that's one. And number two, I think the other profound part when I was in Penang, I ended up in Penang School. And most of my friends are Chinese. And not many people know that my first girlfriend is Chinese also.
Heard about that one.
Yeah, you know about it. No, there's nothing, I'm nothing to be ashamed about. I think it's a very good experience for me. The point I'm trying to make is I think, when you live in that community where your best friend, until today, after being, 50 years of friendship, is still around. We still keep in touch. It gives you a different thinking, from a Malay environment, from Kelantan Johor, suddenly you're very competitive, you want to excel in your studies. They're also good in the business. We hang around.
Preschool is a good school.
At that time, it was one of the top schools. So then it shapes, of course, after that, I got a scholarship. I went to the US, did my degree in civil engineering in Maryland. And again, normally at that time when people go and get a scholarship, you go to a university where there's many Malaysians, right? So we were sent to University of Maryland. We were the only first undergraduate Malaysian.
I see. So how many of you was that?
There's only 6 of us.
Okay.
And typically, it is Leon, people hang around themselves, So back to how I go to this comfort zone, I said, no. I remember my dad telling me at the airport, I said, Syed, when you go there, get a degree, but also learn about what US is all about. So when I touched down, I was settling down when I wanted to find an apartment. I told my 5 friends, I said, look, I'm not going to stay with you. I'm going to stay on my own. So I went to rent this little room at the basement in a big house, 10 of us. And you know who lives there? There was American, Iranian, Jewish, and one of the Americans was selling marijuana, I remember. But I was there, grounded. I didn't, sacrifice my values. But somehow along the way, I just like to go and challenge myself, So that was, I think, the upbringing, then leads to when I come back and when I went to Petronas, I was pipeline. That explosion in Putra Heights?
Right. Yes.
And pipeline. I was a pipeline engineer that actually were the site supervisor for that construction. Yeah. So when it exploded, I went to the scene. I saw the blowout, and I kind of felt a little bit emotional because you inspected, you constructed, and you believe the pipeline was done safe. Then somehow something happened. But along the way, I remembered when I was in Petronas Gas, I went to Canada for training, and we were assigned as a pipeline engineer in Skamat. Then I was expecting my first boy. And I'm commuting every weekend.
How old were you at that time?
I was about 31. Being engineer, I was happy. Then somehow it triggered, in my mind that I said, I think engineering probably is not my cup of tea anymore. Right. So I said I opted. So from being a pipeline engineer, Idris, I applied for a job as a senior executive in international business development.
Right.
Really out of my comfort zone. I have no clue about business development. Too late, writing proposal to, I was in charge of Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
So you remember at that time in 1992, Petronas wanted to go international.
That's
so
right.
The footprint was to, divers the revenue and get maybe 15-20% of internet. So the first focus in international was in ASEAN. So I was put on the desk for Southeast Asia, looking after Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand.
So you were part of the pioneer group for the internationalization, yeah.
So imagine, no background about writing proposal, nothing about finance, just a typical engineer, out of my comfort zone, and put me in charge of the Southeast Asia desk. So I had to learn writing proposal, going to Cambodia, going to Hanoi, set up the office in Hanoi, At that time, Hanoi, they started no credit card. I had to bring $100,000 cash. Imagine, at 32 years old, going to buy equipment, buy furniture just to build, to rent a house and paint the house. Yeah. And I set up the petrol station in Cambodia, of course, the Cambodia story, right?
Tell us a little bit about that story, because that is a really fascinating one.
So really, I was already framing my mind. I didn't realize then.
And which years were that?
That was in 1992.
Oh, that's a very difficult period for
That was
Cambodia.
difficult. Vietnam, Hanoi is not like where it is today. I remember that some American houses ago, we used to buy mineral water to the hotels, not for drinking. You want to do it when you shower mineral water because the water was so bad. The quality of water was dark, it was brown and all that. So you had to shower with mineral water to rinse it off. That's how bad it was in Hanoi at that point in time. That was 1992. And of course, Cambodia, I remember when we were giving an assignment, I was a country lead. So the KPI was to set up the petrol station in Cambodia. So one of the two prominent things, there was this guy called Mr. Sokimax. He's like a gangster, but he controls the depot. So, you want to take, you need to have supply of products, right? So we couldn't bring products, so we had to buy from him. So the ambassador arranged for a meeting and said, go meet this Mr. Sokimax. I said, okay. I thought it would be a nice gentleman, right? Very intimidating, he got a scar in his eyes, come in. The moment I sat down at the table, he sat down. And you know what he did, Idris? And he took out a revolver and put on his desk. Okay, let's talk. So I said, okay. Kita masa tu okay lah kan. You have to negotiate with a revolver in front of his desk, So, but finally, I think he came to his senses that he agreed to supply the products to us. So then we signed all the station, acquire a few stations, bring them. Then that's how this Petronas story in Cambodia started. And the story that I wanted to share about in Cambodia, it was very, interesting was, so there was a refinery, it was in Sihanoukville. Sihanoukville is a port out of Phnom Penh. It's about 200 kilometers. So it was old, and somehow Petronas said, well, let's go and take a look and see whether we can revive it, right? Part of our international. So Tan Sri Hassan, at that time I was a president, said, okay, guys, go and take a look at the refinery. So I said, okay. So we had arranged for transport, talked to Ambassador Deva. So he arranged 2 cars to come in. Keeping us at the hotel, 2 cars with 5 military personnel. So 1 colonel and I think 4 soldiers, all with AK-47. So I came in and said, okay, let's go. I said, why is this necessary? So I said, okay, this is for security reasons. So it's okay, So I went to the car and the colonel sat next to me and we drove out of Sihanoukville. I think about 10 minutes out of Phnom Penh. He took out a revolver and said, give it to me. And this is a true story. I said, Syed, this is your revolver. I said, what's it for, Colonel? For safekeeping. So say I was a cadet when I was in school, so I've handled revolver before. So I took out the magazine. And suddenly one bullet. So I'd pick my mind and say, what the hell is this guy trying to do? One bullet. So I was just jokingly asking him, like, Colonel, why are you giving me one bullet? He looked at me and smiled, and he made a remark. I said, Syed, this is one bullet, just in case. In case of what? As we drive, we stopped by Khmer Rouge, because at that time there was this hot area where Khmer Rouge kind of abduct tourists. Yeah, for ransom. So he just said, just in case you are abducted or stopped by Khmer Rouge, this bullet is not to shoot at the Khmer Rouge, it's to shoot yourself. I tell you this, I was there, like at the back. Oh shit! This is.
You could have told me that before.
And you cannot abandon,
Yeah.
At the
Already
time,
in the car.
need to go see Hanaguville, look at the refinery. So actually, and true enough, along the way there were roadblocks. And it's not communal; it's just peasants with shotguns and AK-47. So what we do, roll down the windscreen, throw cigarettes, and throw the Cambodian rupees. Then they let us go. We never tell this story, of course, to Tan Sri Hassan. But after we came back the next day, nak lepas geram kan?
Yeah.
So the colonel said, let's go to the shooting range. So we actually went to the shooting range and start firing all the rifles, just to let it go. But, I think back to your point, Leon, I think over the years, it's kind of set me up where I don't like the norm, the business as usual anymore. Of course, it's fun. I mean, as a CEO or any other executive, but I'm a risk taker. When there's an opportunity, there's a crisis, somehow or other, it attracts me. And of course, you don't go blinded, but I like the opportunity. I like the challenge, so that keeps me going. So that's why I always go to this discomfort zone, and and thankfully, I think all the stories that I've experience I have can make me what I am today. I mean, of course, not to compete what Idris has to go to MES, but I think we all through that journey. And I think that's what builds the DNA of where we are today.
Now let's talk about how this then has translated to your leadership approach. And now let's fast forward to you taking the helm at different companies. You talked about your appetite for risk, but the reality is that in an organization, while the leader might have an appetite for risk, maybe others might be a bit more risk averse. So how do you then set vision and get the rest of the team to also get on board with a big vision?
Yeah, it's always very difficult, I mean, when you go to a company, normally I always go alone. You don't bring all your people, to turn around, because you just brought in by either the board, trying to turn around a company. But then in Proton is a very good example. Similarly, when I was in Perodua, also in DNEX, the same thing. I mean, I advocate, Leon, on the view that you need to, number one, walk the talk, as you speak. It's sometimes easy to come and give instruction, but you don't then roll out your sleeve. One of the things I think is most important about leadership is to build trust. So build trust is not something that you get just because you're boss. You have to earn the trust. So which means you have to really go to the ground. And I remember one of the stories that we always talk about when you go is, the first 100 days, it is about just listening to people. Because there's so much that you want to absorb and understanding the pain points, and so that what make them take. Once you understand, then you start framing the strategy. And I think, we don't want to go to a top-down approach. Even though it's my idea, as an MD, I think we want to have ownership of the idea. Somehow you need to have a mechanism to make it as though it becomes their idea. So then they're part, of this journey of a transformation, and where do you want to go through. So I believe, number one is about trust. And my style of leadership is always going into the ground. And as an engineer, I cannot sit in the office for too long, Leon. And I was in Proton, so every week I had to go around. And I actually become an operator for half an hour or so. In many parts of the process, I will be the one putting the seats, putting the tire, because I just want to feel the pain point on the operator on the ground. Because at the end of the day, they're the one who's doing the work. So when you go to that phase, then suddenly when they look at you in a different lens. They're not my boss, and you're not my boss anymore. You are part of us. So then it's easy for you to then communicate to them. But you never be part of them, then you are, talking on a very high level, right? They will see, this is a guy, senang lah, cakap kan, talk is cheap, you just come parachute, you have not been to the mill. But when you part of them, when you go to that point, suddenly you say, hey, he knows what he's talking about, he understands what we feel, so now I want to support him. I think that's the first thing that I always want to do. And second is about, when you go to an organization, when you give instruction, it's always easy to blame me. How come you don't understand what I'm trying to say, right? Then you have to look, in their world. We are lucky, like Idris, work in Shell, we've been all over the world. I'm also lucky, I've been to many parts of the world, and I was in automotive, looking at all the best factories in the world, the Toyota, Volkswagen, Mercedes, right? So I see things. But when I give instruction to people on the ground, and if all they see is only a proton plant, they were not able to relate, right? So ability to give instruction is always very easy, but to give instruction with guidance, I think that's something that you need to do. So, but in order to get guidance, you need to learn the subject matter. We'll go and write on the board, without knowing the subject, right? So you need to really go deep and understand about the business. So I'm a civil engineer. I know hoots about cars, in automotive, right? So, but I really learn, I sit, I talk to a lot of people, and today, you don't want to mess with me with, about automotive, because I know a lot about automotive. But it's a commitment that you do, because you are given the amanah, the role to be the admin, to lead. So that's what I like to do. When I give instruction, I will normally ask, do you understand? If you don't, then I will tell them how to do it. And then demonstrate. And one of the things that I always, when I came to Proton early on, just to relate the story, right? The quality at that time was very bad. And it's not me, but the public saying it, and the product speaks volume for itself. So I came from the Perodua environment, it was Japanese, very sticky. So I said, why is it that they cannot produce the kind of quality cars, right? And obviously, kita younger brother, Proton big brother, how can your younger brother come and tell you what to do? Like, the lens were all on me, see whether this guy, Chiku ni pandai tak pandai kan? So I said, okay, never mind, I will demonstrate to you. So I took a car out. A car that was already inspected, the QA has given its pass. The car is ready to be sold, right? I said, no, I want to do inspection. Put it in this quality zone. Then I actually put the glove and inspect the car myself in the lens of the Toyota lens. Then I will pick things that they don't see. So suddenly they say, wow, boss. No, I know, I'm not making stories. The gap. And I actually take instrument to measure the gap. When there's a wave in the paint, I see them, you can see the wave. Because they were doing it differently. So they missed a lot of this weakness there, then they pass it to the public. And then I set the rule, then I show them how to do it. Then they say, wow, this guy really knows his business. So again, back, the same people that were in the company, the same asset, the same tools, how come we then manage to produce better cars in the forward? So it's about the process, about the mindset and all that. But I came alone, Leon. I didn't bring my lieutenant from Perodua,
I remember, Leon, when I first met Sri Syed, first time I met him, at that time it was 2005. The government had started this thing called GLC Transformation program. They hired professional CEOs to fix these companies. And he was in Proton, I was in MAS. Sheikh Khalil, the time he was in TNB. And there were 20 GLC companies that were under observation for the turnaround. And we had, you remember, we had this GLC steering committee. The Prime Minister was there. Every 3 months we were there. And they showed a list of the performance of all the companies. The three of us, he was TNB, and he was Proton, I was we were in the deep shit club.
Yeah, deep shit club. Exactly, that's the word.
DSC.
And really asking the question, how can we turn this around and really make a difference in terms of profitability? It was a real challenge. Do you remember one time we were at the F1?
Oh yeah, I can very clearly.
What happened there?
No, somehow we were in the paddock area, right?
Yes,
because we were GLC, we got tickets. So somehow we was not planned. I think the Sri Idris went first to the rooftop, was looking out to the circuit. I'm looking out, to the sky. And then I didn't realize, I just walked, I was on the other side of the balcony. Suddenly there was two dipshit CEOs on the rooftop of the Formula One, not looking at the cars, looking at the sky, was like, what the hell are we doing? Then I looked around, I saw Idris, hey, are you thinking what I'm thinking? That tells,
You're absolutely right. I was not looking at the race. I was just focused on Malaysia Alliance, thinking, what am I going to do? That's why I'm looking at the sky, praying to God.
Same thing.
It was
from
tough.
oil and gas.
Yeah,
coming
exactly.
into NABs.
Yeah.
And also, maybe from second national to one, my KPI when I was in Perodua, the Sri and Leon, when I counted Myvi, the KPI was simple: kill Proton. That was the single KPI that we talk and we just come out with the car, and that's gonna shake Proton about. And that's how Myvi came about. And it was launched, and I think, the rest is history, as the best-selling car today in the whole country. Then after, I think it was about 8 months or 9 months after the launch, then I got a call from a hunter, say, are you keen to go to Proton? And say, what? Are you sure? I was just like, in my mind, I spoke to my wife, I said, okay, let's maybe just go. So I went to the interview, and there was all other international foreign issue. I thought, just go to the mill, just test market. After going to that, I just a call, I said, Tan Sri Azman wanted to see you. Then, of course, send an in to the Prime Minister. Are you willing to take the job? So that's it. Imagine, KPI was to kill Proton, then you become the MD of Proton. In the dipshit club. And by that time, the numbers were just going downhill. But again, I like the challenge. I know it was tough. I know there's going to be a lot of animosity because I know the people there anyway. We interact in the industry. I know the vendors, and of course, I know what the public is saying about the company. But do I stay, because I was already the deputy MD of Perodua. I was going to be the first Malaysian MD of the company anyway. But Gata Medici said, I want to do something different, just go and do a national history. Then, I remember Dato Azlan, this is national service. Okay. Little did I know what I was getting into.
That's the key word for the both of you. When someone says it's national service, then suddenly that's the thing that seems to be the game changer.
It's never ending story.
Silterra is another one. Huh?
Of course.
Tell us more about Silterra. I mean, it was a company that lost money for a very long time. Public doesn't know this. Huh? What is happening to Silterra? You guys acquired it and you became the MD. Tell us that story.
Yeah, I think it was very interesting, it was when I came on board after I left Petronas. I just came to DNEX as a director. I just want to take a step back, Then they offered me the MD. And I said, look, what is your plan? So one of the plan was to turn DNEX to just being an IT company to a bit more technology company. We were holding, I think our revenue was about 300 million. And so one of the plan was to acquire Silterra because we look at that point in time, and it was just right post-COVID. People know that semiconductor will be the next growth. Yeah, and at that time, I think Khazanah was trying to sell it off.
Yeah, they didn't like it.
They didn't like it.
And they wanted to get rid of it.
My shareholder already put the bid, so I had to complete the process. So I came in, was already in process, the bid was there. So I looked at the business plan, I talked to my Chinese partner, then I went to meet, I think, with 6 ministers just to pitch, about, why we are the right partner to be in, of course, the national aspiration, so on and so on. So, of course, they concluded that we were the best party, so we took over the company. And then, I was on oil and gas, automotive. I had no clue about semiconductor. So when I came in, like you said, it's a loss-making company. When we look at the fundamental, when I call my Chinese friend, I said, there are opportunities. We know what needs to be done. So that's when we came on board. The management were there. The intent was to work with the management, maybe reorganize ourselves a little bit, put a bit more focus, and set up what we call the transformation office. So a month after we took over, all the 5 senior management, which means the CEO, CFO, COO, Chief Human Officer, all were apprehended by MACC. Matters that was out of my control because it was done beyond our time. The timing was terribly bad.
You just join and
Yeah,
suddenly...
so I just joined. We were paid money. We wanted to turn it around, but the senior management on people that's been in the company for many years.
Yeah.
So when we had an emergency board meeting, we were shareholder, and that time was COVID, right?
Yeah, COVID,
My Chinese partners
2020.
cannot fly in.
Wow.
So I was the only
Tough.
Malaysian that was in the board. Of course, the other guy was Dato CEO. So I said, look, Dato, you have to go and become the interim CEO. I said, mana nak buat CEO? I have no clue, right? So I was in KL. I mean, the plant is in Kulim.
Yeah, it's in Kulim.
In Kulim.
I visited that place.
Yeah, right. So at doing the COVID, so I said, the board, the DNEX board said, Tan Sri, you don't have a choice. You have to go down. So I spent 3 days in the week in Kulim, sitting down, and I didn't bring any. I only brought one consultant, ex-Motorola, to came in to look at the production, and another guy from Singapore, a Malaysian, also a semiconductor, that look at the supply chain. So these are the two advisors that brought into the. So I went on the ground, just same principle, Leon. Go down to the Gemba, shop floor, talk to people, understand the pain point, look at numbers, and then I brought in a guy who had a finance background, my ex-CFO from Proton, looking at numbers and see how, what the cost structure. Then we set a transformation office. So every Friday I chair a meeting, 2 hours, proper agenda, all the clear direction we had to do. I went down to the ground, talk to the team, do the problem solving. And yes, and I went to meet and negotiate all the contract with all the customers, because new shareholders came in, right? So we said, look, this is a new, shareholders, we want to negotiate, and at that time, we were lucky too. The demand of devices were booming, and we were supplying a lot of the wafers to the, device manufacturers. So, and we were the only independent company that can do this. So the demand was, so when we managed to negotiate the contract, our capacity was up, and after 9 months, we were back into profit. But there was a lot of pain that we had to go through. And then we realized that, look, this is a company, industry that we need to invest. So shareholders made a commitment to Khazanah also to invest about 200 million. So we invested about 600 million ringgit to invest in new technology, from the CMOS technology today to what we call the silicon photonic, which sets the parameter technology for the AI, data, data analytics, and so on. So right now, and we negotiate, and because we are in geopolitically a very neutral country, and because of the tariff and trade war between China and they came to our advantage, so we got the likes of the customers like Google, Broadcom, and so on. But of course, these are the things that made public. So again, I came then alone, not knowing, but applying the same principle. And one of the key things, again, just like I did at Proton, is to gain the trust, number two, and put belief in the people. They have to believe that they can turn it around. Then we share, just like you lah, go town hall. Sama juga buat brainstorm sini, KPIs, and celebrate small success. Give them back, give them increment, give them some award. And suddenly there's a lot of hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are the one. I'm not the one who's burning my back in the plant, right? They are the one. But when they see hope, then we see that shareholders are a little bit responsible and spend time with them and understand them. And I do town hall every month. And just like Idris, I'm the one who says, I share the result, the good point and the bad point. And of course, we are difficult. But we tell them and we show them what to do, not just give instruction, taklah buat marah-marah. No, that's not what we do.
For people who might be wondering about what is the function of a transformation office, some people might be wondering, well, shouldn't that be something that's embedded in the operational teams? Describe to me what's the distinction between having a centralized transformation office versus having that incorporated into individual teams.
I think it's very good. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I was in UTM giving the talk because they want to transform. And yesterday with the University Islam Selangor, the same topic. Typically, the Sri, of course, understand as well. Leon, if you use the same organization, same set of people who has given you the bad result, and you want to transform and use the same formula, you know what's going to be the outcome anyway. Right? The fact that you want to transform because you are somehow in crisis, there is a pain point in the company, whether it's a financial result or whatever the case may be, and don't tell me you're going to use the same organization structure, the same people, it's not going to work. right? Ideas might be the same, but they are already choked with the same thinking, right? So in order for transformation to be successful, and all the transformation I've been, you have to take it out of the system a little bit. The organization needs to be small, needs to be agile, and you need to then perhaps take new lens on. I mean, not to say that, the old people cannot be, but you need to get someone who's very focused. Because, you're going to spend a lot of time, money, buy a lot of asset and, put effort. You cannot get someone who's like not focused on the job, It's like everyday driving, And when you do this, and of course you have to empower, because the whole role of the transformation office is not just to monitor, is to remove the roadblocks. Yeah. And there will be roadblocks, right? When I was in Silterra, I went to the board, I said, look, you give me a mandate. I need the empowerment, I need authority to make a decision. If I'm going to wait for you to go 3 months to a board meeting, by the time the market is gone. Right? So, but that's empowerment. But then the board said, how are you going to do this? I said, no, not the same. It's outside. I got a new organization, a new SOP. This is the rule that we're going to do, and this is how we conduct. And that's how we do. I did it in Perodua, I did it in Proton, I did it in Silterra, I also did it in DNEX.
Let me just add on to that for purpose of our viewers. Leon and I, we define a game of impossible as a pursuit of a target that we set so high that cannot be achieved based on the current way of doing it, but can be achieved based on a new way how to do it. So
absolutely.
That is why even setting of that transformation office cannot be where it used to be. It needs to be put in an entirely new way how to do it. Your town hall meetings are different. The targets, the way in which you conduct the problem-solving meetings are completely different way from the old way of doing it. Because the old way of doing guarantee cannot achieve it. Completely cannot.
You set yourself to fail even from day one.
Yeah.
You put in there, but you go out, then it will happen.
Yeah.
And that is the rule of transformation, exactly what your dad is saying.
If the leadership is not prepared to spend, like in your case, 2 days in a week, spending time in Kulim,
it
wouldn't work. Because the guy said, these people in Kuala Lumpur, they're not interested.
Nobody
know what we're doing here.
Comes only once a month. The chairman never comes, for example.
They just continue business as usual.
Yeah. This thing about people, I want to transform. Wow, semangat. No, tengok. Same organization. People say, are you serious about transforming? I mean, because they've been doing the same old thing. They cannot transform their mindset. For sure, it's not going to happen. But that's why when you want to do transformation, you need to have a certain set rule. I mean, he set the rule very clearly in the transformation plan. I think that's what the model and same thing apply, and it always works.
It always works. So you guys spend how much buying Silterra?
About 272 million ringgit.
And spend 600 million,
600 million
to invest, to bring it up to high grade.
The high grade technology where
because
we
it
are
was
today.
commoditized before when they did.
Correct.
If I look at some of your numbers, you may remember you made a net profit 2023, 700 over million.
Yeah, correct.
And that's actually a real record. And for a company that lost money for a very long time.
Semiconductor, of course, is a cycle, right? Today. But today we know we are investing in you. So we are, this a transition, right? To buy new tools in Silterra, it take about 12 months. Even you have money, you have to wait because the demand is there. When you have the tool, you need another 18 months to qualify. So the cycle from start to invest to mass production is about 24 months. Yeah, because, people like the Googles and Broadcom, they want to look at that, we have the qualification. Yeah. But again, transforming, you need to set. And it's not only apply for transformation. I remember when I was in Petrodagang, right? I was already the vice president of downstream marketing, and I was in charge of dagangan, South Africa engine, and the global lubricant business as a VP. So I chair all the board. Then suddenly dagangan punya MD left, then Tan Sri Wanzol say, Syed, you take over dagangan juga lah. Say, mana boleh? I mean, VP and and biasalah, two row, but gaji satu sajalah. So, but he said only one. Said, Syed, I want you to try to overtake Shell. Market share. Market share was about, I think share was about 34-33%. We were about 31%. So about 2 to 3%, month on month in terms of the retail, right? So when I took that, I said, look, how are we going to do this? So I went down and addressing the pain point. I said, why did predominantly Chinese like to buy Shell? Compared to the Malays. Malays go to Petronas. But not mean all. Some Chinese still go to Petronas. Then the question is why, you know. So I
Is it
said,
because of the red color? I used to be in advertising, so
no, sometimes because of quality and all that. So we actually identify, you also retail, right?
sure.
The forecourt experience,
Right.
Yeah.
and the convenience shop experience. And I spent days going to Shell, Petron, Caltex, and the forecourt, talking to the crew, going to the Shell Select, Petron, and then we realized, then we want to make a change, transform. And then as I told Dato Arif was my EVP lah. And then of course I know Dato Arif from the first day, Petronas. So back to the answer, if you want to transform, if you go into the Petronas dagangan system, public listed company, tak jalan punya.
Yeah.
Government must go to the board kan. Tak boleh buat. So we incubate all our program outside. And that's how Settle came about, the Black Mesra came about. A different set of team, also some people from Petrodagang we took out, but different. Me and Arif chair the meeting, we incubate, we run that program, it done, then kita bawa masuk dalam. Then it goes up. Then it happens. But when we do things dalam,
Tak boleh.
Tak boleh.
The analogy that an old boss of mine talked about is that he said, put a nursery. If you put your plant into the operating jungle, it will die. You put it in a nursery, you jaga betul-betul,
Yeah.
you put it there, you fertilize it. When it's large enough, then you transplant it into
Betul.
the operating jungle.
Absolutely.
Then only it will survive.
Yeah.
So the idea of the nursery is very important. You incubate it in the nursery. When it's already large enough, then only you can put the. You can't put the seeds into the operating jungle because the lalang
Correct.
will go over it.
Correct. And that's why I think under both in the government, and even I also chair UITM for 3 years, right? When you want to do the transformation, intent is very good, but execution, the model of transformation is not right. And that's why I was the days of Dato Sri Najib, the PEMANDU office, right? It was a different setup, right? The lens are different. But today, the same people so wanted to do it. It's just, sometimes you tengok pun you kesian lah because, but it is what it is, right? They are constrained by governance, by agakta. So when you want to do the transformation, pun susah lah. Sama juga kita nak transform diri sini. If we don't go to the outside of the comfort zone, we'll never be transformed 100%. That is super.
On a personal level, on an individual level, then, you're someone who, from everything that you've shared so far, you have a knack for wanting to go into the weeds, really understand, immerse yourself in whatever the environment is. If the whole thesis around transformation is a level of detachment to be able to bring fresh perspective, then how do you reset perspective for yourself? Because sometimes when you're very in the weeds, sometimes there can be a tendency to become overly narrow-minded. So what are maybe some practices that you apply to yourself to help you to re-establish and widen the perspective?
I mean, I use like the word, the Japanese word called gemba. It's not so that you go down then you come entrenched. It's to understand the process. I remember when I was in Perodua, I was sent for training. Yeah. And the training was because I'm supposed to be the next MD of Malaysian MD. They want to send me for the Toyota for 6 months. And at that time I was the senior GM, right? So 6 month training, those training. My image of training is what? Sit down with in a meeting together with the Japanese, how to do strategy so I went. On the first day of office, I report to duty, and this is a real story. Mr. Higashi was the VP of Vice President of Daihatsu. Say, Higashi-san, I'm here to report duty for my training. Oh, Zainal-san, okay. Chodomade, say, wait. Another guy came, Mr. Miyawaki, took me, said, now, let's go for your training. So I walk along. He brings me not to the office, to a factory. I mean, where they manufacture a car, right? And there's a circle on the ground. And he asked me, Zainal-san, please stand on the circle. So I said, okay lah. An obedient guy. I stand on the circle. Then he left. He just left me there.
So you couldn't observe.
What the hell am I doing? So I tengok around, look at people. They went for lunch, then sat down after lunch, sat down on the circle, and I went back home. The next day, I came to Miyawaki-san, I'm ready for training. Well, excited lah. Then say, okay, Chotomate. Miyawaki come again, bring me to another part of the plant, put in a circle, stand there again. And he left. So imagine Idris, this thing went on for a week. I said, damn. I said, this is not on lah, kan? So I called my boss, Perodua. I say, Weharasan, hey, you are wasting my time. I want to go back lah. This is not training. I say, why? I say, I explained them. I say, okay, I talked to Ikasi-san. So the next Monday, I went to office. So Ikasi-san said, Zainal-san, I heard you were complaining. I said, sorry. I said, so why? I said, I say, okay, Soka. So I said, okay, now you follow me. So he took me around. Then he went to the factory. He saw the circle. Stand on the circle again. But this is the big boss, kan? Pun tak berani lah, kan? So I obedient. So then he asked me, Zainal-san, what do you see? I see cars, being assembled. He asked me, what do you see? I see parts. I said, what do you see? He asked that 4 times, Then I said, I'm telling you what I see. And I said, no, that's not. So then he told me, I said, Zainal-san, you see the 2 gentlemen there? One guy building a car, the other guy on the other side of the car, right? One person is idle for 4 seconds. Mana dia diam sekejap lah. 5 seconds. You see that idle? And that's not good in the plant. That's waste. Mudah.
Wow.
Then you see these parts out of the line, that is waste. Then say, Zainal-san, to be the next managing director of Perodua, it's not about meetings. It's about you understanding what goes on the ground. So that if you make a decision without knowing this, you might make the wrong decision. So it's all about visualization. Then then it dawns upon me. Tak complain anymore. But that was in 2003. And until today, Leona, I apply the same practice.
Observe.
I just observe. But back to your question, don't observe, don't jadi macam dorang jugalah. You observe to understand. Then you then lift up your mindset and say, look, what's the pain point? Why is this problem? What is? It's always about pain point lah. And the pain point is about inefficiency, wastage, and so that, and idle people. But your eyes need to be trained to bit. And I applied to do in Petronas.
And there was a set of questions as well, I believe, that was part of that framework of helping you to understand the problem.
If you read the book by John Liker, The Toyota Way, it's a good reading of the book.
It's a good book.
They call it problem solving in the Toyota. Toyota say, you want to solve problem, Leon, it's like, ask why 7 times. What the hell you want to ask? Sekali cukup lah, kan? Why you be crazy? People think you're crazy. And I still apply it today, like even in my masjid. So the point is, a typical, just give you a simple example, right? If the machine in the factory is rosak, kan? I say, why the machine is not working? Oh, no spare part. So your response will be, go and buy spare part. Problem solved, right? Problem is no spare part, buy spare part. The machine run. Toyota say, no, that's not the way to solve problem. So Toyota say, you ask, hey, why is the machine not working? No spare part. Why no spare part? No budget. Why no budget? Don't submit. Why tak submit? Takut boss. So what's the problem? It's not the spare part. Your fear of the boss was the problem. So if that fear down there is not being eliminated, the same thing
every day is the same.
Have to happen again. So everything in life, it's always about the root cause.
That's right.
So this is about root cause. So my job is not that I ask the right question. But sometimes I say, hey, let's see, kenapa you tanya banyak kali? Why? And when the auditor give you the exit interview, right? It is when you're there.
Sure.
The auditor, same thing. Say, why? Have you gone to the root cause?
Yeah.
Then we lie. Because if you don't, you report to the audit committee, the same happen. The same problem will happen again. So everything in life is always, just don't apply it to your wife only. Like, that's all I say. You ask your wife too many times. Sorry. That's why you asking me so many times. But I still apply that philosophy of problem solving until today. And it just wonders the way you think. So even though I have this view about going down and immerse myself, I already discharge myself. You need to then put a different lens, and understand about the principle, the pain point, and always go to the root cause analysis. And I think your effort will be more productive.
Leon and I say in this podcast that people who say that they want to be called leaders, they shouldn't have the privilege of holding the badge of leadership if they don't get involved in problem solving.
Yeah.
Problem solving is a very important part of leadership.
And that's the thing that I went also attend the university. I said, today people don't teach our youth about problem solving, you know. And when they go in problem crisis, they just don't know how to manage. You know, to apply the same rule. I think absolutely problem solving is a skill. You know, and today everywhere you go, there are problems to be solved, right? And the government, private sector, even in the masjid, I'm sure in your church too, right, John? Problems are there.
All the time.
Yeah.
You know, how do you, since we're talking about problem solving, you know, I'm thinking about crisis, and, you know, I'd love to hear from you. What was maybe the biggest and hardest crisis that you had to manage?
Ini can sit up. Well, I think my biggest pain point, because when I go back, I mean, I'm fortunate to be in quite a few industry. I think Proton was a very, you know, an experience. Good, bad. At that point in time, and today when I look back, I think I was happy that it's all one of the things, you know, is about stakeholder management. Or you have to be it's an art about managing stakeholders, you know, when you have bosses, you know. I used to always say when I was in Proton, I have the chairman of the board. Then of course, I got the shareholder. At that time was Tan Sri Mokhtar. Then of course, the ultimate shareholder was PM himself. Yeah, part of the GLC. And then over the last 3 years, I got another boss, which is Tun Mahathir, which is an advisor. And obviously, there are times when all four people are aligned. Life is very easy, public listed company. But I tell you, you know, and I'm sure Idris can also tell the story, there are some that all misaligned. You know, what do you do?
Big people.
Yeah.
And you are a public listed company, you are an MD, your buck stops at you.
Yes.
You are a gatekeeper of governance and control, right? You cannot ikut cerita orang buat kan the other day. Prime ministers will go away, advisors will go away, you still start the every day. You take the grunt of all the problems, all the decisions that you take. And I can tell you there are occasions, there are misalignment. So I was caught I don't know how I escaped out of it, like, you know, but there was one meeting I remember that I went. I was prepared to lose my job because that meeting, I know some of the stakeholders and all, but I trying to look at, in my perspective, I could be wrong, but at that point in time, I believe that was not the best thing for the company, you know, and I had to stood my ground. And I told my wife, I'm going to go to the meeting with the PM. You know, this decision needs to be made. I need to put my phone down. And I was very prepared, you know, at that day to lose a job. But thankfully, I stood my ground. I think people heard my views. It was contrary to what I think the views of the shareholder. But the government make a decision based on what are my input. Of course, I, you know, ruffle a lot of feathers in time. But that's, you don't want to be a nice guy, right? You want to do a job. You know, and I really took the job seriously. And at that point in time, I think was the best thing to do, you know. And of course, now if you look at the hindsight, I think that was the correct thing to do. But that was not easy, huh?
I don't know if I ever mentioned to you, I turned down the Proton job. So I'll tell you the story.
Now you tell
I'm telling you.
Padahal betul
I tell you.
Smart guy.
So at that time, Tan Sri Azman called me into the room. He gave me 3 jobs to take. One was MAS. The other one was a transformation office within Khazanah. And the third one is Proton. It took me less than an hour to reject the Proton. He asked me, why are you rejecting this? And I tell you the reasons why. This is my argument, and you can ask Azman, we had this detail. I checked at that time, the total amount of money, even now if you look at it, in the car business, the total amount of money that you have to spend annually on R&D is easily between now, current, in fact, I just checked yesterday, 8 to 10 billion US dollars per year. In fact, Volkswagen spent last year 24 billion. And most of them, Toyota 7.8. So you can see, so if I look at the total revenue of total review of Proton, there's no way you can spend that kind of money.
Yeah.
And I knew at that time the only way this can work is to go back to the original model, business model of Proton when it was first set up.
Yeah.
Mitsubishi.
Yeah.
They tied up Mitsubishi. And then of course they divorced. And Proton did not have the money to spend every year on R&D.
Sure.
And you cannot do that. The only way it could work was to come back and find a new partner that will spend the money, which is what they do today with GLE. So in my mind, I said to him, the only way fundamentally you can transform Proton is to go back to a model where you have a partner, a strategic partner that will spend the money on R&D. Just like Perodua, you had the Hatsu that spend the money on
you reduce the cost.
You reduce the cost. Otherwise, you cannot stomach it. And so I said, and I saw at the time the arguments between the key stakeholders. Tun Mahathir was totally against the idea of doing that. And I said, look, there are large moving objects around here that have lots of power. And this, I will never be able to succeed to convince them.
I was the silly one who took the job.
To go and do that. That's why I rejected it. But of course, you can make some improvement on where you are, but longer term, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
That's why many years later, I think it probably in the year 2017, I was an advisor to the government. Dato Sri Najib called me to the office. He said, Idris, Proton needs 1.8 billion ringgit of loan. They want the money. You're long gone already.
Oh, yeah, I was gone.
Yeah. They need to do that. But this isn't the first time, he said. But they've asked this, and I wonder, even if we give the 1.8 billion ringgit of a grant or loan, it will come back again. How do we deal with this, he said. Can I appoint you as the chairman of the special committee to deal with this? So I accepted the challenge because I remember the original reason why I think, so this is my time. So I became the chairman of the committee. We turn up in Proton's office every 2 weeks. Azman Yaya was in my team and a few others were there. So Azman Yaya was together, Tan Sri Azman. We turn up every 2 weeks. So we told them, we will give you this money, the 1.8 billion. There are two conditions. One is we must get you a strategic partner who will spend the money on R&D. One. But you will not find a strategic partner unless we beautify you. You have to do all the things that you talked about, improve the way in which if you want somebody to marry you, you need to look good.
Yeah, betul.
You have to do all the thing, the work in the factory to improve vendor, etc. And this is the thing we do. So if you do that, every 2 weeks we'll pay you 100 million of the 1.8 billion. The following week, if you've done it, we give you another 200, another 300. So we did that. So eventually we forced them. That's how the GLE came about.
Oh, okay.
Because the deal was, we will give this money, but the money was RCPS.
Yeah, RCPS.
RCPS. That means if they don't succeed in doing it, the loan become equity.
Equity.
And so I can tell you, that was the reason why I took on the challenge to become the chairman of the special committee.
Oh, good for you.
Simply because I knew long before the only way for the survival of Proton was to get a strategic partner that will be prepared to put the money on R&D, and then you can latch on the drivetrain, the new things that they're doing.
I think the catch is trying to find the right one.
Getting the right one. Renault was in the running.
There are people who are, fishing, but they always...
Renault was in the running, PSA was in the running, but GD won hands down.
You need scale.
Yeah, you need scale.
You need scale. I was in the Perodua and I was in... So on hindsight, Perodua, for example, the cost of development of a new car, because we shared together with Dato, is only about, in the context at that time, was only about 300 million, right? But Proton, because they had to do everything on your own to develop a new car, was about 800 million. So there was 3 times the cost.
You touched on your current role in DNEX, but I think let's dive a little deeper into that. Obviously, in that context alone, you've also had to change and shift the way that you operate as well, from being having executive functions to now being a non-executive chair. As you've done that, what were some of the shifts in terms of how you work? Was it difficult to then make that shift to kind of relinquish some executive control and function?
Leon, I think after being a driver for such a long time, to give it up is always not easy. But I mean, when it comes to a certain age, and I mean, you just want to force yourself that I think you just want to say enough is enough. The transition was not easy. So I came as a board, I was an MD, I was an executive chairman. When I took the role as executive chairman, I already told the board in X amount of time, I would not be the executive anymore. I was very clear. Very tempting, the boss, so, hey, continue. But I said, no, enough is enough. Few things that drives me to come to that point. Number one, I mean, you're already in this last lap of your life. Number three, I'm already 60 today. God willing, you probably reach to 70. But in my own day, this is my last lap. And there must be something more meaningful in life rather than just, going down, driving numbers, KPI, slave master, taskmaster every time, I mean, you want to build, what you call your debt, the safe deposit for your hereafter. I mean, either way you are, in any field that you are, right? Fixed deposit pun tak ada lagi ni kan. You're talking about all these worldly things. So then I look at myself, and I said, look, there must be more in life to this. Then I trying to find what's my purpose, that God has given me in all this experience. When I look back, there must be a reason, right? I mean, I always believe three things that has been decided when you are born, in Islam. Number one is your life partner. Number two, your rizki, what you want to do. And third is the day that you're going to die. And so the rizki that Allah has given me in all this abundance, there must be a reason. It's not for my accolades and all that. Then I look back and I said, look, maybe time has come for me to give back. And the only way for me to give back is not to be an executive anymore. If I'm an executive, I cannot. And I mean, I'm from a governance point of view. You cannot be moonlighting here and there. This just doesn't sound right. So I was prepared to give up the authority, the power, the luxury, and scale down, but still be productive. So today, the motivation of, helping other small companies. I mean, people ask me, go back to GLC. I mean, GLC, you go upon, it's already big, I mean, you sit on the ball to say, again, what can you contribute, right? You can probably, but it's only incremental, right? So I would rather go to small companies, and that look, and, maybe they lack the strategy, maybe they lack, in connecting the dots. So my role in this company is, I think, more impactful, and it's not about me alone, it's about building the next. And I also now trying to mentor a few startups. I like the youth, and I got 3 boys myself, like you. So I see, and they struggle, right? Good mind, good business model, but they don't have the wisdom, and the strategic thinking, right? So I said, there must be a reason. And that's what I think my purpose, and I make that decision about 2 years ago. And my purpose today is about giving back. And that's my KPI today.
How do you help others find their purpose in life?
I don't know. I mean, I think as you go through your life journey, you need to find what your purpose is. You cannot just be linking around KPI, GLC. Takkan nak mati-mati pun good luck pasti the KPI. There must be something more spiritual. I mean, I'm just like you. I'm also spiritual in that sense. So over time, I've discovered that's my purpose. And I also, my NGO that I do, and I help, people, victims of, floods, fire. I've got my masjid, which I'm the president for the last 12 years, and giving back. And to me, it's, the funny thing, people say, hey, don't you miss the adrenaline rush? Of course I do miss. But the satisfaction now is even different. It's different.
You should write a book.
Maybe I'll take it out. But you should
write a book.
Well, you heard it here first on GOI.
So that's how I adjust. But the transition, I must say, not easy. Suddenly you're chairman of the board, you were MD. I said, hey, why are you doing this? And then you realize, hey, I cannot do this. I'm going beyond my... No,
and in a company where you were the MD before.
The poor guy, you need to give him the right empowerment and support. And as role as the chairman of the board. But it took time for me to adjust. But after that, I know where I stand. I now a bit more supportive to my layoff. And I sit on the board, I sit on some, religious council to help, the poor. And that's giving me more purpose in life. Like in Islam, as you know, in the 3 things that they say you can take into your grave. One is your sedekah, what you give, the money you have. Itu pun I not that much to give lah. Second, the son, pious son. that you leave behind that pray for your good health. Itu pun I cannot guarantee lah. The third thing that you can bring is what we call knowledge that has been used by other people. So that I can control. The knowledge that I have today, if people use that knowledge and if they do good things, Islam teaches us that you will get the reward today for you to bring. So that's my motivation to give back to society, so that I want to find my fixed deposit, my investment for the hereafter. Sometimes you think about it, we are not a pious guy lah. We do so many sins in the past, right? And God knows. But I suppose if I go and push myself to that direction, at least I have a balanced life. It makes me a better person today, I believe. I should have done this long time ago, but I have no regrets. Being part of all this program. But that's my motivation today.
What would be the one legacy that you would like to leave behind?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Because legacy of career, I think, we've already lived a mark lah. I have no dream to be doing more than what I do. I'm trying to run away from publicity, sudah cukup lah. It's not so easy, to go away, just like I say, now everywhere people, until today, people know my way, Mr. Proton. That was so many years ago, right? But it is what it is, right? Yeah. I don't need that anymore. But I think I want to show, today we live in a very dangerous environment, social media. People always been, at least I see the new generation, always looking about material. And then we also sometimes are also guilty by saying that success is measured by accolades, by material, right? So today I want to tell the new generation that you can have the best of both. In Malay, kita panggil what we call, I call myself corporate dakwah. Preaching, sometimes you leave it to religious people with a servant to preach, that's what the typically. But I say that's not. Preaching should also be the corporate people. So what's the whole idea? A legacy that I want to leave, that you can have the best of both worlds, actually. You don't have to sacrifice religion because you want to be successful, nor you sacrifice success because you want to be religious. There is a balance. Where to find the balance is not one size fits all. Yeah, so that's why today, every 3 months, I will still read the sermon in my masjid. The khutbah every 3 months, it's not for anything, but just, it's a cleaning, spiritual thing, and I always get the satisfaction out of it, and the idea is to pass a message. Look, you can be a successful corporate person, do whatever you be the best you do, but you can also have a role in the society to play. How to, treat the neighbors, how to treat the poor. So that's the kind of message that I really try quite hard, to pass a message. And I think it trickles through, when people, I see the comments that people say, oh, and I think that to me, it gives me a lot of satisfaction, but it's a conscious effort, that you have to stay on many things, you have to stay the course, and do that. And I'm happy. I will continue to this journey. And I'm sure about quite picky companies that I get associated with today, because I've built many years to be in that position. I'm not about to destroy what I'm trying to pursue, the legacy that you want to live like. You want the children also to look up to you and say, look, I measure my dad not because he's been a Tan Sri or CEO in the past, because say, look, he has a balance. I got life, not my balance. I, my home, the community, respect that you get. I think that goes beyond, any KPIs, any success level.
Well, I think that's a wonderful legacy to leave behind, and I think a very poignant place to end today's conversation. So, Tan Sri, thank you so much for making the time, for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's good. Bring back all memories. Deja vu.
Thank you all for listening to yet another episode of The Game of Impossible. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, we encourage you to subscribe to both our YouTube as well as Spotify. We upload episodes weekly at 6 a.m. every Friday. And we also have short form content on both our IG as well as TikTok at The Game of Impossible. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.